The Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
The show is brought to you by Miles Franklin. When it comes to protecting your wealth, you know there's nothing better than gold and silver. And when I want gold and silver, I go to Miles Franklin because they've been around 22 years, and when you buy, they ship. For more information, go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. 1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. And it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. As you know, one of the themes of this show is freedom, personal freedom. Perhaps it's really the only theme that we ever discuss on this show, just in different forms. We talk about economic freedom, we talk about religious freedom, we talk about many different areas of freedom. And one that I found very interesting article appeared in the Times recently, that is the New York Times, aka the New York Slimes, but we won't get into that now. And they're talking about how Pat Robertson, for those of you who don't know him, he is the televangelist extraordinaire, the 700 Club, Christian Broadcasting Network. He's been around. He's 81 years old now, and he's calling for the legalization of marijuana. Now, my personal belief, from lots of experience with different people, with children, etc., is that it's relatively harmless, especially compared to alcohol. You don't see people smoking marijuana and then beating up spouses. Generally, it seems to make them more passive, but I'm against intoxication in general. I think that you lose too much of life when you're intoxicated on anything, whether it's alcohol, drugs, gambling, you name it. Everything can be a drug. Everything can be addictive. Food. How many people do you know who are addicted to food? I'm one. I'll tell you that. I mean, it's a lifelong battle because I love fine food. I love wine, but it doesn't love me, especially around the waistline. The point here is that marijuana is and has been illegal since the 20s and 30s. And the fact of the matter is we've had this war on drugs, and all it's succeeded in doing is depriving you of your freedoms. That's all it's done. People want to smoke marijuana. They know where to get it. It's readily obtainable virtually in any location in the United States, maybe even the White House and the Capitol, for all we know. It certainly wouldn't surprise any of us, because the way those people are running this country, the way your Congress is mishandling the economy, I'd like to think that they were high on something, that they couldn't be this stupid without the assistance of some intoxicant. But the point here is that it's a relatively harmless drug. The harm, far greater harm, has been exacted by banning it. And whether you believe that it's evil, the evil weed, that it makes people do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, maybe that's all true. But my point is this: as a libertarian and as an American citizen, you have to know that prohibitions, just like alcohol was prohibited in the teens and all the way through 1933, 34, when FDR was elected, it was prohibited. And what happened? You created a tremendous criminal underclass. You had tremendous corruption. You had violence, and all because people were going to drink no matter what the government said. I remember my grandmother telling me, my grandmother was born in around 1897, 98. She told me that they never had any alcohol in the house, ever. None. until Prohibition. They'd have a bottle or two. She said after Prohibition, they had cases and cases of liquor in the house. They had apricot brandy, they had vodka, they had homebrew, they had moonshine, every type of alcohol known to man, just because the government said they couldn't have it. Look at gun prohibitions. Have those been successful? Look at this stupid light bulb prohibition. That is a prohibition. Is that going to be successful? No, because you are going to find ways around it. And every single time the government starts a prohibition, it becomes a war on what they're trying to prohibit. And really, the war is on you. It is on your rights. It is on your freedoms. And they want to stop you from running your life. They think they know better than you what you should be doing. And you know what? Maybe they do. Maybe they're brilliant. Maybe the nanny state, such as Nanny Bloomberg, maybe he's right. Maybe you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes. You shouldn't be able to enjoy a cigar in the comfort of your own home. But you know what? They don't have the right to force their will upon you. The Constitution was specifically designed to prevent exactly that end from happening. So when I hear how brilliant these people are, when I hear that they just know better because they are smarter, they have better degrees, they went to better schools, it turns my stomach. And here's another aspect to the entire drug wars that you need to know. We're not going to get into why it was initially banned. There's a lot of debate on that topic. I've investigated it myself on numerous occasions, and at this point, it's impossible to know if hemp fibers really posed a challenge to DuPont's nylon, or if hemp fibers could have been a viable substitute for wood pulp and paper. I tend to doubt it. I think it was just a case of ignorance. Perhaps the liquor lobby was involved. You never know. It's very hard to reconstruct why this ban went into place. But what I can tell you now is that marijuana, the prohibition, is a windfall to law enforcement. It's a windfall. And one other thing, 40 to 60% of the Mexican cartel's drug revenues are derived from marijuana smuggling, whether it's growing it in the United States or smuggling it across the Mexican border. Imagine if marijuana was legalized and taxed and controlled in such a way that liquor is, what that would do to their business. They would have to change their business model completely. There'd be large numbers of cartel employees seeking new employment. But let's get back to following the money. Billions and billions of dollars are spent every year trying to stop pot smokers. And a lot of it is because law enforcement agencies, and I support the police, no bigger supporter of the police than I, except they shouldn't be meddling in domestic policy here. Guy by the name of John Lowell, he is a lobbyist, and he ran the opposition in California to Proposition 19, and that was the bid to legalize marijuana in the last election. He was totally in charge. He ran the ads, PR campaign, everything. Eventually, Proposition 19 was defeated. And how much did his firm receive from an array of police unions, including the California Police Chiefs Association? $386,000. So I guess he's proud of the work that he's done. In addition, he represents police interests all over the place in trying to pull down federal grants and dollars. As part of the stimulus bill, there was money paid to police organizations to help further their fight against marijuana. There are police officers who are hired as a result of these grants. There's equipment purchased from police equipment manufacturers. This whole ban is a scam. There is no purpose for it. If there ever was a purpose, it's certainly outlived it now. People are doing this with impunity, and that makes enforcement of the marijuana laws often discriminatory, often arbitrary. And any law that is arbitrarily or selectively enforced is a bad law and needs to be done away with. I'm not even going to get into the tax ramifications, how much money the state could be bringing in the country, because I don't think they should be taxing most of this stuff at all, whether it's tobacco, alcohol, etc. Not right. Using it as a tool of social policy. If you want to stop people from smoking tobacco, if you want to stop them from drinking alcohol, or you want to stop them from smoking pot, you shouldn't have a disincentive in the form of massive tax revenues that come in when they imbibe in these activities. So the next time you hear a politician or a spokesman or somebody else speaking out against marijuana and why it should remain illegal, follow the money. When it comes to following the money, when it comes to totalitarianism, there's a phenomena that a certain person, he's an NSA whistleblower. His name is William Binney, Binney. He was the NSA, that's the National Security Agency's former senior mathematician, and he left around 2001. And he's asked, what's going on with the U.S.? How close are we to totalitarianism? And he holds up his thumb and forefinger very close together, and he tells the interviewer, we are that far from a turnkey totalitarian state. And the reason I bring this up is there is a huge domestic spying data center that the NSA is constructing, biggest ever, in Utah. Word just broke. There's satellite pictures of it. The thing is huge. It's going to have thousands of people working there. Supposedly, they've figured out how to break virtually every form of data encryption, and they're able to monitor most of the telephone calls taking place in the United States, virtually all the emails taking place in the U.S. and around the world, and this is a huge data mining operation. Now, there might be some legitimate uses for it. I won't argue the point. The country has enemies, whether we created those enemies on our own or they just hate us because we are who we are, doesn't matter. The government, the limited government, its main purpose is to protect us from those enemies. And by protecting us, hopefully they won't go creating more enemies. But we see this over and over again. So out in Utah, this is like the epicenter of the polygamy, the polygamous cults over there. They're building this data center, and it's going to be able to scan the deep internet. Like, those are the pages that are locked away that you don't see, and it's going to find more and more stuff. It's going to find more things to potentially incriminate you and to incriminate me. And you have to assume that every time you send an email, every time you pick up the phone, every time you send a fax, if anybody still does that, I try to avoid it at all costs. Antiquated technology, but every now and then it has its uses. Every time you put something on the internet in the cloud, that you put data in there, it is going to be scanned if it's not already, and they're looking for incriminating patterns of words, characters, information that can get you into trouble, even if you haven't done anything wrong. So the next time you hit the send key on an email, think about the fact that this data control center is going up in Utah that will monitor virtually everything in the world. Think about what William Binney said, that we're this close to turnkey totalitarianism, and think about that the next time you hear a politician on television telling you that they're going to try to protect you from some threat, real or imagined.
This is Kerry Lutz. It's been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.